Guys, I'm going to start. I don't have a big lot to say, but I'm so pleased actually to be. Is this on? It's on, yeah. I got engaged with Taylor and Andrea just, I don't know, last year, I guess, right? And, you know, as a member of CITL to look at how this initiative will move forward at Memorial. And I'm pretty excited about it because it is one of our teaching learning framework funded projects from 2016. And for those who don't know, it was a competition that encouraged the exploration of new and innovative ideas at Memorial and moving those forward. And we know that students at Memorial, from a lot of consultations we've done in teaching learning over the years, and educators too, really, you know, have different ways that learning can take place. You know, there's just so much out there that students have today in terms of technology to create their own learning experiences inside the classroom and outside the classroom. You know, the challenge for teaching learning here at Memorial and other places too really is to come up with those new ways of educating their student or the student educational experiences. And I think LEAD really kind of, the LEAD program really encapsulates kind of like, it's almost like this microcosm to me of teaching and learning of the future, you know, and it really can set a model for teaching, learning, and new and innovative and integrated ways of doing that. And that's all I'm going to say because Andrea and Taylor really have the guts of this initiative. But it is really exciting, and where it stands today is that I'm, as part of CITL, and under the new framework going forward, we'll be looking at how we move this initiative as a model, you know, of teaching, learning in the future. So with that, I'm going to introduce Andrea and Taylor. They've been working on the project as a project team for the last couple of years now, right? And Andrea Rose is really, I call her the brainchild for bringing LEAD to Memorial, and she'll kind of tell you where it came from. But Andrea is a faculty member here at Memorial, has been for the past 28 years, and she's faculty member of Faculty of Education and Faculty of Music, right? And really, for the last couple of years, she's been, you know, exploring a lot of these different types of initiatives around teaching, learning as well. So we've crossed paths a number of times. She is a Distinguished Teaching Award winner and also a 3M Award winner, a Queen's Diamond Jubilee winner for her contributions to arts and music education in Canada. So with that, welcome Andrea, and look forward to hearing from what you have to say more about LEAD. And Taylor, who's with the Harris Center, has been working on this project for the main coordinator of it for the last couple of years on the TLF funded project. And Taylor got a master's in interdisciplinary masters focusing on decision making and models of dialogue and education. So she brings that wealth of knowledge, and you'll see how that relates as she speaks to, or they speak to this concept too. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Taylor and Andrea now, and welcome.
Great, thanks, Kim.
Yep.
Very nice introduction. Very, very nice.
And I'm Kim Myrick, by the way. I don't know if Allison introduced me. That's enough. That's all you need to know.
Okay. I got one here. Yeah.
All right, excellent. So what's going on? What's going around right now? Thanks to many behind-the-scenes masterful people who fix things, is pretty much what I'm going to tell you at the beginning. So what we're going to talk about today, I'm just going to go through LEAD at a glance. So this is what we are proposing for the program here. So what we're mainly talking about today are our project outcomes. Right now we're kind of in a weird transition phase where the project's pretty much done, but it's not actually an offering yet, and we are moving it, trying to move it through the systems to make it go. So what we're going to be talking about to you is what we understand coming out from the LEAD, the Semester in Dialogue TLF project. Then Andrea's going to take you through some context, so setting up where this came from and how it got to Memorial in the first place. And I'll talk to you a little bit about the project itself, the team that came together, all the work that was done there, and some of the sort of major outcomes in the report. Then Andrea's going to talk to you about the pedagogy and skill sets that have been shown to be developed within the Simon Fraser model, which we expect as well here at Memorial, and then look at what a semester in action actually looks like. And then we will open things for discussion. Does that work? Super.
It has to work. Nobody has any decision-making powers in this room.
All right, so I'm just going to walk you through what's in front of you here. Feel free to stop me at any point and ask any questions. This is, a pretty casual session.
We basically want to get lots of information out so we have more to discuss at the end.
So let me just brain dump on you here for just maybe 5 minutes. So in summary of this slide, what we want to do is take 20 undergraduate students from across different departments, faculties and schools, and even across different campuses, and get them to study a community-chosen topic that has public policy relevance intensively over the course of a semester. And that's all they'd be doing. So really, this is there'll be projects that are public-facing, a combination of assessment that values individual, small group, and full cohort work, with the likely outcome being a public dialogue that's hosted by the group of people at the end of each semester. This may change and fluctuate. So the cool thing about this program is that it basically sets precedent to do a whack of really cool stuff. So perhaps instead of hosting a dialogue at the end of semester, they might say produce or allow for a piece of public art to exist in a place that it didn't before. So it's really open and flexible in terms of the projects and very much student-driven, which is part of the pedagogical model that we're offering here. So we are looking at the Simon Fraser University model of the semester in dialogue, and that's where we're pulling most of our information, although we also did a review of other educational precedents, basically, that are going on in other parts of Canada and the States. And the cool thing about this is that it's really community integrated to the point where the instructors are actually a combination of faculty members here at the university and those external. And that can include staff and students and other folks who aren't necessarily seen as expertise holders within traditional models of the university system. So we really want to mobilize the cool knowledge that's out there. And the other neat thing about this is that we wanted to rotate between the different campuses. So what we have proposed is basically having 2 semesters a year in St. John's and then 1 rotating between the Grenfell campus and the Labrador Institute based on capacity and resourcing for that. Is that all clear so far? Mm-hmm. Cool. So then it's, okay, well, that's all well and good, but how are you going to make it work? So one of the big pieces that I will talk a little bit more about within the Semester in Dialogue project is academic integration. And this has been kind of the trickiest model and something that we couldn't learn from Simon Fraser University because they haven't done it. So at Simon Fraser, if you're a student who wants to take their Semester in Dialogue program, you have to figure out how that fits into your degree. And so they've been operating for about 13, 14 years now with cohorts of 20, and they only usually have about 40 applicants a semester. And I think that the academic integration piece is one of those things that's stopping their growth. So what we wanted to do when approaching this model is to say, you know what, we're going to build the entire bureaucratic foundation behind this program so that when students come in, it's really easy and it can actually be integrated into their degree programs. And there's 2 main ways we've gone about that so far. So one is through a use of a block of electives. Pretty straightforward, but it requires a lot of degree planning, so there's work that we need to do with different academic offices with that. And then, or a substitution for a co-op or an internship or a field placement. And I'll talk a little bit about how tricky it is to try to navigate that. But that's basically so that we can integrate it into degree requirements, making it really easy for students and make it really appealing for students so it's not like, oh, this extra thing. Although we do predict that there probably will be students who are like, I don't want to leave university. I want to stay and do this thing, like me, because I totally would have done that. And we're hoping to develop a certificate program out of this, but that's sort of a few years out as we sort of manage the rest of it. As we've moved through the project, we've recognized a need for a different governance model and ways to get these types of interdisciplinary programs approved. So we've got a loose kind of idea of how we're moving forward. Using the Vice President Academics Office as an interdisciplinary home for the program, using perhaps Dean's Council as a way to approve the program without going through the faculty mechanisms, which then sort of house the program within one faculty or school. Having CITL perhaps as the administrative home so that they can do the orchestration without, again, sitting within a faculty. And then a combination of an advisory committee and academic and administrative leadership to actually make sure that the thing goes. Now, the topics actually change semester by semester, and we got to plan them out about 1 to 2 years in advance so that students can do the degree planning that we're looking for them to do. Because this is a sort of a final year program in their last couple of years, though there may be exceptions to that. What we want to make sure within this process is that the community is highly involved within topic selection, but also that different faculties and schools actually see themselves represented in the topics that are chosen. So it's a weird line between we need it broad enough that we can sort of capture the imaginations of students, but narrow enough as like, well, what are you studying again? And like, how does engineering play into that? So that's continuing questions as we move forward here. Questions? Good? Yeah? Awesome. Student selection. So we want to look both at academic history, but also community service and community engagement. And that could be a whole variety of things. I like to use me as an example. I was president of Fight Band, the pep band at McGill. And I really didn't do anything else. But I built that band, I wrote a constitution, and so that kind of experience would be highly valued within the student selection process here. And the interview being the most core component of that, to make sure that we're actually getting stories and we are reflecting the pedagogy even within our student selection process there. Faculty selection will generally be done by most likely the academic director, and we're looking for experience with dialogic pedagogy and transformative learning, and we will be providing professional development opportunities not just to internal faculty but to anyone perhaps who's coming into the program, which really connects us into that public engagement piece of Memorial and stitching it through the teaching and learning framework as well.
Taylor, I have a question.
Yeah.
You talked about how integral and important the interview process is, and of course dialogue and expression. Does that also, and I don't know enough about the original model at, is it St. FX?
Simon Fraser.
Simon Fraser, sorry. So does it also, because so many of, especially Atlantic Canadian students, express better, not so much verbally, but in writing or other forms.
Yeah.
So is that
There'll be a variety.
part of it's a variety,
There'll be a variety.
of interview components.
And it will likely evolve as we sort of figure out what's kind of going on. Like maybe it is a written section, and maybe like, hey, submit a piece of art. Like as long as we have the ability to interpret it, and I think we're definitely open to sort of a flexibility of how you want to come into this program. We'll need a model. We'll stick with that at the beginning, and then adapt and grow and change from there.
Because the other important piece of this is because students are together quite intensively for a full semester, we need to make sure that personalities and goals and outcomes and intent and all of that have some sort of synergies in order to make a team, really. Yeah. We're going to be building a team of 20 each semester. So there's
definitely an eye towards cohort development.
Yeah, there are a lot of factors. Components there.
So, lots of fun, messy things in here. And so the four sort of basic pedagogical underpinnings of this are dialogue. We aren't calling it semester in dialogue, although it's now into the LEAD acronym as the D there. Community university collaboration and integration as much as possible, making sure that we're paying attention to mutual benefit and that we aren't replicating some of the problematic power dynamics that university interactions have had before with community organizations. Interdisciplinarity, still, we're still figuring out what that means and what it looks like and how to assess it properly, but we think this is a great opportunity to really focus in on that. And then experiential learning, which, yes, has a billion definitions, but really what we want to point to with that is students doing things that isn't just writing papers that are going to be sitting on their shelves for years to come. Okay? So that's my spiel, and that should take you through the page there. Are there any other questions about sort of the basis of the program before we get into more of the background?
I don't know if the acronym was spelled out for LEAD, was it? So it's leadership, engagement, action, and leadership, or dialogue. And dialogue. So lead, engage, act, dialogue is what will appear in the MON calendars lead, because that all fits within the how many character limit?
25.
So we had to change it from nouns to verbs, but lead, act, engage, and dialogue.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fine.
So I'm very interested in the final year decision. Why focus on final years?
It's meant to be, it doesn't necessarily have to be final years.
So exceptions are possible.
Exceptions are possible, but it's meant to be a sort of, and something I'll talk about later on another slide, is it's meant to be a transitionary experience from the academic degree to the real world, let's say, right? So definitely later degree, not necessarily a capstone semester, not necessarily a final semester, but at a time when somebody feels very comfortable with their academic degree, has knowledge built up, has knowledge acquisition, and is ready now to mobilize that action,
Exactly.
mobilize that knowledge into some sort of action. So later years, for sure.
Because we also don't want to lose people's disciplines as they come in here, and we want them to have a solid enough foundation that say, well, actually, from what I know in political science, this is how we look at it, whereas the first and second years don't necessarily have that grounding yet to be able to speak from that language. And having that language developed then allows us to develop the translationary mechanisms around it, right? So in interdisciplinary work, you need to both speak your home language and also be able to speak the language that other people are going to understand. Because I can say the word institution 1,000 times, and to every person I say it to, it's going to mean something different, which means I need to be much more clear if I'm talking about institutions, which is a language from my home.
And too, the experience will be a challenge by which, you know, you have 20 students potentially, and they're coming from different, oh, thank you, Taylor, coming from different disciplines. Thank you again, Taylor. I need a Taylor around all the time.
Me three.
There needs to be a level of confidence too in how they engage in being able to understand their own disciplinary knowledge and actually rubbing that up against other disciplinary knowledge and how that might, you know, grow. To be able to take that and see the synergies with other knowledge and how to turn that into something that's productive for an outcome, right? So,
Well said.
yeah, thank you.
I ask because, and we can stop me if we want to talk more about this later, but I'm interested in people self-selecting wrongly out of it because it's senior, because they have not planned for it, because they don't feel like they've got time. I agree there's lots of students who will take an extra semester to do this, but there still might be a lot of those perfect candidates who don't get the chance to do this because they don't feel it's successful to them.
Yes.
But
And we will lose quite a number of those people in the first
Yeah.
couple of years.
yeah,
Yeah.
There's other pieces of movement with academic integration that might help fix a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's the program, the offering, working closely with different departments, faculty, schools, to communicate the information down, you know, in first and second year, saying, hey, this is a really cool thing to maybe plan for. But
And
yeah, you're totally right.
In meeting, we've met with practically all faculties and schools now at the administrative level and had some focus group meetings with faculty and others. And so there'll be calendar language built around this for each faculty. So somebody in the School of Business will see this appear in their section of the calendar and will be able to realize how to make this happen in their degree. So, but it will take a couple of years for sure to probably get rolled out. Yeah.
I'm Ken Stoneborough from Civil Engineering.
Yeah.
I'm interested to hear how it'll roll into
Yeah.
other faculties, but we have in our final semester in engineering a capstone design course in civil engineering where they interact with a real world problem and with real world engineers and I do find that it's too big. It's too big to build into a single course in a single semester.
Yeah.
Students tend to focus on that because it's a very good skill, you know,
Yeah.
to acquire to be able to transition
Yeah.
into the real world. But for the other 4 courses
Yeah.
that they take during that program, I mean,
You can't do it. No.
Well, you
Yeah.
know,
They suffer,
we kind
perhaps.
of overlook.
Yeah.
Because they operate in a cohort anyway.
Right.
And, so they're in a cohort classroom. They've been in a cohort
Yeah.
classroom
Yeah.
since they entered engineering.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the final semester then is really built around this big program, and the
Yeah.
rest of the courses kind of accommodate
Yeah.
that they're engaged in this. It's a very important thing, but it's difficult.
It's
to
challenging.
Into the infrastructure of
Which-
the university.
Yep.
Which is one of the reasons why we wanted to be a full semester. No other commitments, no other responsibilities. They live, breathe, work together 24 hours a day for 13 weeks.
Yes, and I think that
There's even dedicated space.
I
There,
wish
yeah.
we could do it.
I know.
Wish that we could do it. I wish
Yeah.
we didn't have to hang
Yeah.
4 other courses.
You can't do
around
it.
the neck.
City Studio out at Grenfell too, we heard from them. We've held focus group meetings everywhere. And their program is worth 2 courses.
Now there's 2
It's
courses.
2. It started off as 1. Now they've gotten 2 of the 5.
May grow still.
But they're experiencing all the same challenges, around students
We've
being.
got accreditation requirements, and we've got
Yeah.
to put the inputs in,
Yeah.
get the
Yeah.
number of credits that we need, and there's all kinds of logistical challenges in order to be able to do these things.
Yes.
I'm really interested in what you're doing.
Yeah. So just to
On that
speak to
note,
the
though-
engineering though model.
No, I'll get to
Okay.
that.
Okay, you'll get to that. Perfect.
Cool. You get to this.
Oh, me. Okay. So so where did this all come from? So first of all, I've been at MUN, as Taylor said, now for 28 years, and I've always been interested in teaching and learning. People say, hey, you're a musician, you're a music educator, why are you drifting off into all of these other things? Well, I've always considered myself to be an educator first, and in my life up until now, it's been through music. But my other side of life has always been interested in public engagement and experiential learning and civic engagement and all of that. So I was an invited professor at Simon Fraser for 3 of these years, and have participated in 3 of these semesters out there in various capacities. So for instance, one I was brought in as a dialogue facilitator, because these are taught by teams of people, and each person in the team brings something different. One might be a content provider, an expert, one might be a facilitator of dialogue, one might be something else, who knows. And then in another semester, I was actually the content provider for an arts and community semester and things like that. So I've had this wonderful experience out there 3 different times, and have seen the power of the program and the power for transformative learning. We had to bring that word in here somewhere today, didn't we? Of both students and faculty, and frankly, community members involved with the program. So I've seen the power and the potential, and ever since I've been doing these programs with Simon Fraser, I've been wanting to bring it to MUN. And I'm also an advisor and workshop leader with this National Leadership and Public Policy program called Action Canada, which has a cohort of 20 fellows selected from across the country every year who study public policy in Canada, travel to different regions. Part of the program is individual leadership development, things like public speaking, media training, thinking on your feet, the power of the question, all of these individual op-ed writing, and stuff like that, as well as then the public policy and regional issues and projects and things related to that. So stemming from both of those experiences, plus my own innate educator thing, has led me to really, really want to do this. So in 2006, I first brought the proposal for LEAD, and it was actually called LEAD back then, to MUN with President Axel Meissen, and it didn't get very far. They were all very, very interested, but it didn't quite roll out. So it's been, 12 years in the making now. But when I went back into my files, my very first proposals were written in 2006. But by 2012, big changes at MUN in those 6 years with the development of the 3 frameworks in research, teaching and learning, and the last one, 2012, in public engagement, which really has set the stage. MUN is now ready, to be honest, for a program like this. And a program like this has wonderful potential to bridge all 3 frameworks together in very unique ways for undergraduate students, which is also sort of very interesting, because undergraduate students are sometimes, in my experience and estimation, undervalued for what they can bring to the table and for what they can do and how they can engage confidently and courageously with lots of different people, but they don't often have the opportunities to do that in their undergraduate degrees. So the time was ripe. So in 2016, again, I was pounding on Rob Greenwood's and Mike Clear's doors to bring this to their attention once again, because I really felt, because of the public policy side of it, that the Harris Center was a wonderful place to bring undergraduate students into. I loved what they've been doing for years, and for years I've been saying, and I've been involved with a lot of their programs there, but I've been saying, where are the students in all of this, you know? You have such wonderful things going on and so many resources. Undergraduate students should be involved. So I thought the Harris Center would be the perfect home to bridge public policy and this program on dialogue and leadership, essentially. So they were wonderful and took up the gauntlet and hired Taylor as a public policy intern to then put the proposal into the teaching and learning framework, and it's gone from there. So thank you very much to the Harris Center for getting it from 2006 to 2018.
Andrea, will the center continue to manage and administer the initiative?
No. So what has happened since then is with many consultations throughout campus, and with our provost and different people, right now what's being looked at is that the Center for Innovation and Teaching and Learning, in its new manifestations, upcoming manifestations, and new roles on campus, will likely be the administrative home. The academic home will be the VP academics, the provost's office, so that it's truly interdisciplinary, cross-campus. It's not attached to any one person or any one faculty.
Okay.
Yeah. That way it makes it neutral, cross-board, and CITL will be a wonderful home for this. And yeah, there's so many exciting things happening there that we believe that's a good model. And a good model for the campus, because CITL will hopefully probably be the home for teaching and learning in general at Memorial University. We don't have an office of teaching and learning like we have an office of public engagement, but I think the plans are in the works, and I'm, just that, CITL will probably have a bigger role in leadership in terms of teaching and learning across campus. So we want to be part of that. That's where the future of teaching and learning is at Memorial right now.
And I think you were alluding to it back here, currently we haven't had anywhere on campus where there's a structure in place, for interdisciplinary offerings to students, right? So there's no go-to place that, you got an interdisciplinary initiative. How is it going to work on campus? And what we've even found since, it's grown from, it's in this transition phase between project to program, we'll say, is that I've been working closely with Taylor and Andrea, breaking down the barriers, the hard barriers. So it's not like we're going to try to fit this into traditional structural pieces or processes of the university. It's like, what new ones do we need? And how do we do this so that it builds that infrastructure for more of the same thing, right?
Graduate studies have found a way to do it through the School of Graduate Studies.
Yeah.
Right.
So that they'll interdisciplinary programs, but
We don't.
Now, that being said, as a student within one of those programs, it's still
I have
shaky.
a little bit of a problem with that, is that it doesn't come with any resources and base funding and faculty members and people.
There's no structure in place attached to it.
There's nothing
It's really in
attached.
name only, isn't it? I mean, I've been a part of the program as well as a faculty member, supervisor, and
Right.
it has lots of problems. So we're trying to build
So
something different.
when you're going back to your home discipline saying, oh, I've been doing all this interdisciplinary work, they say,
Nobody
so
knows.
what?
So what?
Yeah.
Been there, been there.
And so, so we're
Yeah.
trying to,
Yeah. Yeah.
that the university is
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
recognize the
Yeah.
faculty members' work in
Yeah.
these disciplinary programs, but it's an uphill climb.
It is.
And it's an uphill climb, probably even more importantly for me, it's an uphill climb for students. There's no support structure for students. They're left on their own.
And you really never feel like the bottom of the barrel, right? It's like, oh, interdisciplinary. Okay, well, that means you don't do anything. It's like, what?
And no faculty can provide assistantships to them or anything like that. So that's not the model we wanted to build. And there is no School of Undergraduate Studies on campus. So we've had to build a new structure that we think holds great promise for many other people, many other programs down the road to use.
And it does.
And the Dean's Council primarily acting as a faculty council.
So just to keep us moving here, because I see we've got about less than 20 minutes left. So we got the funding, right? So we assembled a team. So there's led by Andrea here. We also had Dr. Jan Rosales and Dr. Max Liemeron, and our 2 graduate assistants, Laura O'Brien and Alana Felt. And we had Mike Clare and Lisa Brown from Stella Circle and Dan Meads on the study team, the advisory study team, basically sort of keeping track of what we were doing. And that internal collaboration was super duper important. Like working together as an interdisciplinary team, we sort of felt like we were modeling the type of team that needed to be created in order to get this program off the ground, which is pretty cool. So that team was assembled from August 2016 to December of that year, and we put out our first draft of the report out. We completed our first draft of the report in December of that year, and the report is we had a review of other educational precedents, but I think probably the most valuable piece was the ridiculous amount of consultation that we did, including up to Grenfell. We went to Grenfell, we went to the Labrador Institute. There's some pieces missing around, like how do we integrate Harlow? We don't know. There's some conversations that haven't been had yet that we're still trying to figure out, but we really got buy-in from as many different pockets of the university as possible, which is pretty foundational for the development of this project. Now, since then, the phrase that I often use when talking about this work is wandering through fog, because since there's no precedent, you're kind of like stumbling forward a little bit blindly. So you know that you have to talk to people, and you know you have to figure out how to make this program go in the different faculties. But beyond that, it's been a regular surprise of, oh, right, okay, this is what we should be doing, and this is the conversation that we should be having. So being really reflexive and responsive to new information, again, has been the basis of the creation of this program and likely the implementation of this program because it's new, because it's different, because we're setting precedent here. So we do have a report that was finished in 2017. We're essentially waiting on the release of another document before we can release this proposal to the public, or the report to the public. But it covers everything quite extensively. It's a 60-page report looking at everything from, how a particular semester is going to be run, to the underlying pedagogy, to who needs to be in place in order to support that, and then everything that we heard from all the different stakeholder groups as to what was most important to embed in the program moving forward. We wanted to learn from other MUN interdisciplinary programming, so talking about the graduate programs, and also we're often compared to the first-year success program because we have a similar model. So we want to say, first-year success was housed in arts. That was one of the major issues that sort of trapped them out of interdisciplinarity, and that's why we've kind of gone this other, much more meandering, meeting with every single person, trying to convince them that this is a good idea, please buy into this sort of way. So academic integration really has been the name of the game in the last year. And this has meant meeting with deans, associate deans, undergraduate, and co-op internship and field placement coordinators to say, all right, what is this actually going to look like? So for engineering, for example, we've been meeting with Greg and Andy Fisher and a couple of folks from the co-op office there. And there is, very fortunately for us, a pilot service learning work term where the requirements say that you have to be paid for your work term. There are a whole bunch of service learning opportunities that didn't have this funding, so they piloted this program, and this is how we're going to sneak into integration within engineering. So 00 work term 04 to 06, you are eligible to apply for this thing instead of any other type of traditional work term. And as long, sorry?
Once only.
Once only.
Once only, yep.
Once only.
And you can't do a service learning work term and this thing, so they're really weird bits and pieces that we're just trying to figure out, and everything, you know, within the engineering co-op handbook has to be followed by our program. So what we're probably going to end up seeing, and what's going to be interesting to navigate, is that a lot of the co-op and field placements require supervisors within the field. So how we end up stitching that into the thought leader, instructor, assessment requirements is going to be a very interesting puzzle for the instructors who will be first teaching this to work out. But again, that academic integration piece has been, I think, crucial to not just the success for students, but the actual success of the program, because you now do have all faculty buy-ins. And as we move forward, we want to get the program approved through that interdisciplinary mechanism, but then we will go through each and every individual faculty and school to get the program integration agreements approved and the secondary calendar changes, which is going to really pin it structurally into everywhere.
And where are we with that? I mean, we have most faculties and schools covered right now.
Yeah,
I
there's
mean,
some
it's
programs
just
that
not
we haven't
signed,
figured out
sealed,
just
and
too tight.
delivered. But other than medicine and nursing
Pharmacy.
and pharmacy, all schools and faculties
We've got some idea of how to move forward.
have a way forward with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Based on the different programs, there's some things that we just can't, like this won't be for all students at all times, definitely not. There's some programs that we absolutely cannot integrate into as far as we can understand, but of course that may change as the years come.
I think, you know, when I came into the picture, I wasn't surprised, but the overwhelming, you know, response from faculty to want to find a way, the willingness was great.
Yeah.
To want to find a way to make this happen for their students, you know, which is really, really
Yeah,
encouraging.
it's been very positive.
Yeah.
One of the things that my observation would be, again, is I think it's great the time when we expect students to participate in it, because I think they do need that strong foundation in their studies and things, but I think it's really important to make sure that they're aware of it in that year 1 and year 2.
Yeah.
Same thing with Harlow,
Yeah.
all these experiences that are
Yeah,
really
so they can
off the
plan.
grid, so they can plan, and stuff
Yeah.
doesn't catch up on them in year
Yeah.
4. What, I could have done this, but
Yeah.
you know, so there's a way that
Yeah.
we have to.
It's a lot of marketing and information,
Yes,
stuff like that,
and
yeah.
also with, I think, a big recruitment thing, because we have a lot
Recruitment,
of
yeah.
students who are looking for experiences
Yeah.
as part of their education, and so
Yeah.
this will tie into that as
For
well.
sure.
But
Yeah.
another element of that is, as much as somebody might plan, and this is another thing I'm worried about. What if they don't get in? What if they push off a bunch of electives in their first 3 years and have these 5 electives saved up, and then they apply and they don't make it into the program?
Mm-hmm.
What happens
Very
to
good
this-
question.
to the student then?
Yeah.
Best of luck to them.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a competitive process to get in, right? It's
But
yeah.
no more than if they had applied for pharmacy or applied for nursing or applied for any other.
Or social work.
Or social work,
yeah.
and they
A
were
little
going to
different, though, I think.
Not necessarily. I mean, that happens, and I'm not trying to dismiss that in any kind of a way, but that could happen in a lot of paths, even traditional paths. You know, you get to a point in your degree program whereby it's not matching up anymore, and you got to kind of figure out a way. Not that, you know, you wouldn't want to navigate them effectively, but I think that will be a natural. So if they push all the 5 forward to the end, so do they just do the 5 then?
Well, they end up being a senior student doing like.
Yeah,
music.
it's like
Right?
1,000.
The
Yes.
music course.
You're doing the catch-ups to make the degree
What a
happen.
wonderful opportunity for
Right?
them to get to do that course.
The pop music course.
Yeah. Right?
All right, well, I'm going to burn through the next 6 slides.
Okay, I'm not going to go through these very quickly, but just to talk a little bit about the pedagogy. So it's a pedagogy of experience, like we've been saying. You can just read this. It's immersive, it's intensive,
Students doing the thing instead of just
Yeah.
reading about the thing.
Learning by doing.
yeah.
And
And
having a super supportive environment to hold it. Sorry.
yeah, and interdisciplinary approach to research, you know, as part of the program, to inquiry, to project-based problem solving, and to leadership, because basically we want to really nurture these students as leaders in their communities. And, you know, the experiencing of diverse and multiple ways of knowing and thinking and doing, both academic and community, and they're not always the same, right? So it's to experience that in action. And each semester, of course, is going to be very it's, you know, very uniquely designed for that semester. First of all, it's built around a certain topic and, you know, certain things around that. And each group of students is going to be very different. Each cohort might have different mixes from different disciplines. So each semester is kind of like a boutique design experience. Over the years, we really hope to have multiple semesters running. We hope this will turn into a program that would become even a broker and a resource for the university to put on semesters like this for different faculties. Even within faculty, engineering is not a unidisciplinary field, nor is music, nor is business. So even within faculties in schools, there could be lead sort of semesters or a 6-week lead thing or something like that. So we hope eventually that the center will become a resource that can do many things. Obviously, we're starting basic and small. Transformation, yeah. So this is about the academic, moving from academic degrees to professional and community-based context, theory to practice. For me, it's a really big thing, and really what I experienced most firsthand was watching students transform from, okay, what do I want to be? I'm going to be a musician, I'm going to be an engineer, I'm going to be a mathematician, to who do I want to be? Who do I want to be in this world? What impact do I want to have? How am I going to use my knowledge to be who I want to be? And that's a huge transformation process that actually, in an immersive semester like this, you know, it would be easy to say, well, it's only a semester. I mean, 3 months, really? You're going to transform, you know. But it has happened. I have seen students and faculty members and people coming in to the program experience transformation through this experience. So it's about, as I said before, knowledge acquisition now to knowledge mobilization and ultimately civic engagement with all of that. And building networks to, from our academic networks to community networks as a leg up, really. I mean, I've seen this program be such a leg up to students, to give them momentum, you know, to make ongoing decisions for their lives and for their ongoing studies, whatever it is they're going to do. It's a huge leg up.
And even to keep them here, right? So a lot of students leave, it's like, okay, well, there's nothing for me here. So to be able to change that mindset as the part of the program and say, like, well, look at all these cool people who you're now connected with. Like, go talk to one of them. I'm sure you can figure out what to do next.
I can only imagine the alumni of the program, like
Yeah.
Right.
when they graduate and
Yeah.
that transformative experience and how that impacts.
And that
their
network,
engagement.
That's huge
and
for
that
recruitment
network
as
has
well.
remained.
Yes.
At Simon Fraser, we have a bat signal, right? So if somebody from a former cohort or something like that is having problems or wants information about something, or that scientist or that musician, whoever it is, they send out a bat signal. And everybody, you know, comes to the help of that student and things like that. Is amazing camaraderie and collegiality. And a pedagogy of collaboration. So the big thing here is getting MUN faculty, staff, and students together. I mean, I've existed in a silo. Most of us have in our own, you know, worlds. And this is a ray because a lot of faculty want to break out, you know, and work with other people and do interesting projects and things like that. So this will be one way. It's not going to be the only way, but it's one way of allowing that sort of collaborative work going on. And a lot of faculty really want to be more immersed in community and public policy issues, but they don't know how. They don't have the paths. They might not be from here. They don't know the community. They don't know the issues. So this is, again, like a community of learners that can, you know, that everybody can be a part of. To co-create knowledge, everything is a collaborative, from the design to the selection of topics to the development of projects and things like that. The team teaching I mentioned earlier. A lot of PD will be going on. We'll be working closely with different people at MUN, Student Life, CITL, the university libraries. All of the expertise that's on this campus now will sort of focus it all together to develop wonderful professional development opportunities for all involved in all of the sort of sub-pedagogical areas that go into making this semester. Yeah, and it's a value add. Like we've heard, you know, from so many faculty members. So, for instance, faculty will be engaged on probably per course arrangements. So, you know, Kim might come in on say a 2-course equivalent. You might come in on a 3-course equivalent for a semester, and you know, it's a chance to get out of your own teaching routine and do something a bit different, to engage. It's a value add for students, a big value add from faculty. Any faculty members I've talked to, like faculty to faculty, are so, oh, call me please, you know, I want to, you know, break out, you know, a little bit, right? And all of that. So dialogue is the basic, pedagogy, but there are multiple pedagogies at work here. But we all know the importance of dialogue in leadership, engagement, networking, communication, mobilizing knowledge, in deep listening, deep understanding with each other, decision-making, community building, and of course professionalism. So as students are finishing their degree and working through all of these areas through the process of dialogue, it's a wonderful skill. It's a wonderful skill set to develop through this semester that may not have had an opportunity to get nurtured in other courses,
So these would be qualities or competencies?
Outcomes, yes, competencies, yeah.
That students would have upon
Yeah,
completion.
yeah. And kind of similarly,
Oh, and all the
yeah, so these are all the types of things, there's a lot of public speaking. We want to move from research papers to op-eds, communicating ideas in community-based ways, brokering projects, network, media training, research and writing, of course, is a huge part. There's a lot of academic rigor in here, connected obviously to the engagement and experiential set. The big things for me, I've seen transformation from students becoming very close-minded, very, very insular, to being very confident in conversation and able to listen, able to articulate things to people who don't speak the same language in terms of disciplinary language and things like that. So these are all sort of hard and soft sort of skill sets that emerge, and of course beyond. We could make this list forever. So semester in action, a typical week, lots of probably 2 or 3 dialogues with different thought leaders brought in, briefings, debriefings, student facilitations between and betwixt everything, lots of meetings with faculty members and community leaders, mentorship check-ins. Every week I would meet with 2 or 3 or 4 students just on a mentorship basis, how you doing, where are you going, research, public events, field trips, and individual and group projects. As Taylor mentioned earlier, we'd be designing and facilitating. Students would be doing all of this. One, obviously, having been taught and given the skills and the tools to do these things with. It's not just you're going to hold a public dialogue. There's a lot of work around facilitation and organizing and things like that, building up to that. And some standard project outcomes. They'll be writing reports. They'll be writing probably some papers, hosting events, making products. Taylor referred to the art project. One of the semesters I did at Simon Fraser was arts in the community. And we had a $40,000 grant from the university to put a piece of public art up at their new campus called University. And this is a village they created up in Burnaby Mountain that was for student housing and faculty housing and some classes and like a little village and shops and boutiques and restaurants. And so they wanted a piece of public art in that. So they gave us they gave the semester students $40,000 to come up with a proposal, get a call, design the project, hire the artist, do it all, and have it built and erected by the end of the semester. So for people not engaged in that sort of a process on a day-to-day basis, it was a huge learning opportunity in terms of how does art get made and what are all the granting agencies and all the different things around that lead to the production of a piece of public art and how that's engaged, with the community. So, but there's lots of examples like that. Lots of assessment, both individual in terms of individual development and individual skill set development, as well as team-based assessment, and of course the full cohort-based assessment. So it's a variety of levels and ways of assessing.
We have -1 minute for discussion. Does anyone have any final questions or thoughts, or we're going to be around. This thing's hopefully going to happen. We're looking at fall 2019 as if everything kind of goes as it goes.
Can I just mention just a couple of other things from the keynote this morning? Were you all at the plenary, the panel on leadership? I was struck because each of the panelists was asked to define transformational teaching and learning. And so many of the things that, I just had to start writing it down. Like Dr. Hardy Cox said, it's like a sustained aha moment, but it's mostly a move to action. And this is what this semester really, really aims to do, move knowledge to action. And Dr. Keshen talked about mastery of knowledge is important, but added to that passion that comes from experiential learning and sort of making knowledge more meaningful. And Dr. Gordine talked about learning needs to go beyond content to change perspectives and to understand the perspectives of others. And of course, that's the beauty of the dialogue of the pedagogy of dialogue in working with others, and to use that knowledge in new and complex situations, which is what this semester aims to do, to get out there and look at complex political, economic, scientific, whatever things that are going on. And Dr. Shea said transformative learning is really about people and interdisciplinarity, and this is really, really about people and how we connect and how we learn and work with each other. And one of the things that came out that I couldn't attribute it to, but one of the things was about to have higher expectations from senior students. And that's sort of what I alluded to earlier. Like, I really, really think that our upper level senior students need to be challenged a little bit more.
There's some keeners. Let's give them.
Yeah, let's give them something to chew on. You know, really, really, really chew on. And somebody else mentioned courageous conversations. I think that was Rob Shea. And I really, really love that phrase. We had talked about it several times ourselves. But that notion of building courage, I've seen it. Students developing courage and building their own courage to be able to talk with leaders. I mean, you know, premiers, whoever comes in, you know, CEOs of organizations, whoever it is coming in, and students are sitting at a table engaging with them. And over the course of the semester, they really change. They become very courageous and confident in their things. And the last thing I was just going to say, is this program for everybody? No. It's not for everybody. It's not for all faculty. It's not for all students. It's not for all staff. It's not for all community members. But there's something for a lot of people in here, I think, who would be very interested in engaging with an experience like this. People from the community and organizations and associations and students and faculty and staff. There's a lot of interest. It's not for everybody, but it's definitely an option for a lot of people.
So stay tuned for our Senate proposal that hopefully will be released in the next 6 months with a full report that you can read all about our other things that we didn't get a chance to talk about today, and that will have a clear line of communication to the person who has released said proposal for you to have further chats. Thanks.
You wanted to mention one thing?
Yeah, no, I was struck in that session as well. About,
Yeah.
You know, everything sounded so good, and but you know, I was struck myself, and I was going to get up and speak, but I felt it would cast a pale of negativity across the things. But I was asking myself, how do you do those things in the current structure of the university to fit it into the 13 weeks, to fit it into, you know, how am I going to get something else in the engineering program, for instance? You know, I can't fit anything else. Something's got to go if something new is going to come in. But this seems like it could really do something. You know? And, how does, but, you know.
It's one way of doing it. There's wonderful things going on like this in pockets and individual classes and settings, but this is one way of institutionalizing the pedagogy.
I should congratulate you all on the hard work that you've done in making your vision fit the institutional structure and processes and vice versa.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you for not
Wonderful
giving up.
opportunity.
I'm like a dog with a bone, my dear.
Thank you, Andrea.
Oh, thank you very much.